Welcome back to another episode of Welcome to the Music Lounge. Perry, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Andrew. Today, we have as a guest probably one of the people who had been doing video promotion the longest at a label. And when we introduce her, everyone will know the length of time that this person was doing it. I mean, she saw everything from the evolution of MTV over probably almost 20 years. I will introduce Michelle Welch, who is the former Vice President of Music and Artist Relations at Columbia Records and is currently in marketing at Bedford Music Marketing. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, nice to see you,
Welcome,
Andrew.
Michelle. How you
Thank
doing?
you. I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Of
So thank you.
course. We haven't had a label person on for a few weeks, right, Perry? We've been
It's been a
inundated
while.
with
Yeah.
MTV execs, which has been amazing. Labels give us that different insight to what we don't get.
So, as I said, I was bumbling over your introduction. You started at Columbia in 1988, and then you were
Yes.
at the label until 2004. During that time, obviously, there was a huge amount of changes that were happening in not just in music, but was happening in music television, was happening in pop culture. You saw probably so many cycles of things like,
Yes.
boy bands popular, boy bands not popular, boy bands popular again, and then grunge era and the rock era, and then all into like the Strokes indie New York scene era.
Yeah.
So kind of talk us through how you started at Columbia, and then segued into video promotion, or maybe you started in video promotion. I don't know. And then one or two of the earliest artists or videos that you worked when you started at Columbia.
Oh God. I started at Columbia 1988. I was still in college, and one of the girls that I went to college with, we had the same major, we were communication majors. She recommended me. She interned at Columbia Records, and she recommended me. Ironically, I did apply for an internship at MTV, and I got turned down. So
Oh,
I know, it's kind of a funny cycle because after I started working with MTV so closely, they're like, well, why don't you come work here? And I'm like, well, you guys actually turned me down. So I started in product marketing, which I love. Product marketing is the heart, as I see it, of a record company because it's where everything starts and finishes. You have your hands on in A&R, sales, marketing, promotion. Every single aspect starts and goes into you because it's also where the money flows through. So from there, I was there for almost 2 years. And then when it was getting close to graduation, a position opened up in video promotion. And it actually came about because I was working, covering somebody's desk, and I had asked, I'll take care of it for you. Because the great thing is you wanted to just be as involved as possible. So while I was
Right.
covering phones, our then president, Don Iona, called. And he was just like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, what are you doing? And I told him, I said, well, I'm working on this report. And he goes, no, 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 no. What are you doing with your life? And I told him, I said, well, I'm looking to, I'm looking for a job. And he immediately said, oh my God, I need somebody in my office. Can you come work? I was like, yeah, sure. And I said, well, I have to. And I was like, well, I'm still finishing school. He's like, wait, you're not done with school yet? I go, no, I have 2-3 months left. He goes, I'm like, but I'll leave and I'll come work. I can get my degree. And he actually said, no, you will not work here until you are finished with college. I will make sure of it. So please don't try and get a job because nobody will hire you. But I promise you, you will have a job here when you graduate. I promise you that. And true to his word, a week before, I think a month before I graduated, I was getting ready to go on spring break. The then vice president of marketing called me, and Jack Rovner, who I adore as well, and said, we would like you to come work in our department. That was when I moved over to video promotion, because at the time, video promotion was part of the marketing department. So I went to work for one of my all-time favorite people, Mark Aneem, who is legendary in the video promotion circles. He's
Yep,
one of a kind.
absolutely.
There's so many fabulous, wonderful stories that we have about Mark, and he actually gave me my start and taught me so much about the ins and outs and just all everything about it. So I started working for him there, and I never left. I stayed in video promotion. I did also do video production because at the time the departments were so small. So I was doing promotion and production. So I was actually involved with the videos getting done and then getting the videos played. So it kind of was,
So
but it just became a lot. It
during
just
the
became a lot of work.
during your internship, you already got an
Mhm.
insight into the video promotion team, right? So you had a little
Correct.
understanding on
Yes.
how it
Mhm.
operated.
Yes, and
Nice.
plus, I mean, at the time, I initially wanted to work with, I wanted to work at MTV. So that world to me, when they flipped me over, was just fabulous because I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this is awesome. I get to work with MTV, not at MTV, but I'll take it, close enough. And that's kind of where I started. And it's like you said, it changed so much. We used to have to do video submissions on paper. We had these binders with all of our submissions. And people would say, how long have you been here? I would just point up to the submission wall and say, there you go. From 1988 on, because I had all the books and all the
Do
binders in
do
my
you
office.
actually
So,
remember the first video you ever submitted to MTV?
God, 1990, 1989.
Or one of the first? It might not have to be the first, but one of the first videos that you were like, "Oh, I get to submit this to MTV. I'm doing it myself."
Honestly, no. I wish I had the binders. Was it Billy Joel? Fun fact, I was one of the first people to hear Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. So I was working for his project manager at the time, Amy Strauss. I was working on a project with her in her office, and his manager had come in, Jeff Shock. And they looked at each other, do you have it? Do you have it? And they kind of gave each other looks. So I went to get up and go out. And Amy said, no, Jeff, you could say. He goes, oh, absolutely. So I was like, okay. And that's when he played Amy, We Didn't Start the Fire. I
Wow.
was like, holy cow,
Wow.
this is
It
so
seems
freaking
like
cool. Yeah, it was
nowadays
so cool. So
every
cool.
song on an album has a visual. When you were
Yes.
working singles, was it really just one or two? You went that extra step to make a video, and
At that point, because MTV had become had grown at that point, it was the 80s. So let's face it, now
you were like,
MTV was just exploding.
yeah,
So everybody wanted a video. Every single band we had wanted to have a video, and understandably so. And every single band wanted their video up on MTV. So yes, it was just kind of packed. And I think a lot of the urban acts really started to want to make videos because then it was like Yo was starting to come into play.
right.
But there were still artists though that were not automatics, believe it or not, to get onto MTV, and one of them being Mariah Carey. Because when
Wow.
when Vision of Love first came out, you remember Vision of Love is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
ballad. She was a brand spanking new artist that nobody knew. And VH1 took it because it was VH1, but MTV said, not right for us now, but they did know. They knew. They're like, she is going to be a force and she is going to be somebody we know we are going to be dealing with. But the song did not fit at the time because this was Vision of Love was what, 1990 or whatever year it was. It didn't fit because they weren't playing songs like that, like the Unbreak My Hearts and everything didn't come until later on. So that's why
Right.
that didn't go through. But pretty much everybody wanted a video. Every single band that came out, the first thing they wanted to do, and I was doing production at the time too, so everything was about making a video. Everybody
So
wanted to
what
do a
was it
video.
like? Did you actually work with Mariah on that first video?
I was still the assistant department. So yeah, we worked with as far as any of the treatments. And Mariah was a very special artist at the
Why was
time.
that? I'm kidding.
Just well, honestly, when we first heard about Mariah, of course you think, oh God, but then when she came and she sang for us, we were all, it was dead silent. And I think she was a little freaked out because I would be, but it was dead silent. Nobody could believe that this kid got up there and had the voice that she did. We were all sold. We're like, oh my God, we are so sold on this kid. But
She was
she
like
was
18 or 19
18,
at the
yes. And
time? Wow.
she was so raw, and she was so, not there yet, like not was still finding her way as far as who she is as a performer, what she's comfortable with, like she was just very self-conscious of everything and just a perfectionist. But musically, wow, she just blew us all. Like, I still get chills thinking about the first time I heard her sing. It was like that. You heard her sing and you were like, holy crap. You didn't think a voice could have voice. And then when she did when she sang at the NBA, I think it was the All-Star game, she sang she didn't sing, she sang the Star Spangled Banner and blew people away. After that, we got so many phone calls from people wanting to know who this kid is. Who is she? Who is she? Who is she? Who is she? So the video, I think we did a couple of versions of it because they were just trying to find the right one that's going to be representative of her. She wanted to showcase her singing. She wanted people to know who she was and that she could sing. So the version that we put out kind of helped show her without putting her just as, oh, look at me. And it really kind of showed her voice. And then as videos went on, she had all the input. But she had a lot of ideas. As the years went by, she would just be like, what do I got to do to get an MTV award now? I'm like, we don't know. We just don't know.
Well, I mean, just talking about Mariah for one more second, when you write the song, you obviously have a vision of what a video will be as the songwriter, because she writes a lot of her own stuff, or most of her own stuff, I believe.
I would say 99.9% is all her.
Yeah.
She will sample, she has done, but she writes, like if you look on her first album, the credit is her and Walter Afanasieff. That's it. Like she writes all her music, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, like all the songs that she has turned out. Like I think that first album that she did it had a little bit of everything. It had a pop, it had a little bit of rap in it. She really tries to show all the different levels of musical ability that she has. But she does. She writes so many songs.
What were the budgets like back then, and were you there with the transition into throwing a lot of money into music videos?
It depended on the artist. Smaller baby bands, and the way it would work was, when we tell bands this, you had to be careful with how much you spent on your video because everything is recoupable. If you do a video for $100,000 and your recoup amount with your deal is 50%, you have to pay us 50%, and that's going to come out of your royalties. So what's going to happen is you're going to sell records, but depending on what is recouped, you might not see something.
You're not bringing home any money till the video is paid for.
Which is why we had certain artists who were able to would just pay for the video, so nothing was recouped against them, because that's how it was. But I believe back in the day, like all the videos were 50% recoupable against the artist, which it's I remember LL Cool J did this talk one time. He used to drive a Toyota back in the day, and they were like, why are you driving a Toyota? He's like, because I need to be smart with my money, because they're giving me a check up front, but then I got to pay for it in the back end. So his thing was, you take as little as possible so you can make as much as possible. One of my favorite people in the world to deal with. He's fantastic.
The fact that he's still as big and popular today
100%.
as he was back then is just a testament to how smart he is about who he is, what his career is, what his place in the entertainment space is. And I also have heard he's just a really good guy too. I don't know him. I've never met him, but
every time I see him, he still remembers me. Either him or Chuck D, they push me when they see me. I don't know why. It must have been a thing from like when we were younger, but one of them I think it's Chuck D, just pushes me. I'm like, what? I don't understand. But now it's become a thing. It's like a joke, inside joke, and I feel stupid asking because I honestly don't remember why we started that. But he just kind of like, not a big push, but he kind of, and he always makes sure I'm standing in front of somebody. It's one of the most fantastic people you will ever come across. Worked with him before and stuff. I know he's done.
I probably have. I just,
you definitely have. Because I feel like we were still doing stuff with him when you were there over at MTV.
Yeah, late 90s, MTV introduced TRL. Came from MTV Live. What do you recall about the early days of TRL, and was it as popular and influential back then when it started as it obviously became in the 2000s? And any superstars today that you had to really work and push to get a booking on TRL?
What I recall about TRL, before it became TRL, MTV did MTV Live, I want to say was the show where they were trying to have a live show from the studio. And I believe we booked one of the first, if not the first, acts on there, Sean Mullins, who had a hit song at the time, Lullaby. So he came on, and it was just in the studio, him, they played videos, and it was just kind of like a test. It was a pilot for it, I guess, for lack of a better term. And then it became TRL. And that's when Carson came into play. And the one thing I loved about back in the day with the labels is we all kind of supported each other. Like if I knew Wendy was trying to get somebody there, or Lisa was trying to get somebody, we would kind of say, okay, well, I'm doing this. Like we actually all did help each other out because it's such a small field. So I want to say in the early days of TRL, I remember trying to get Savage Garden, and it was before I Want You really blew up. It was starting. It was getting there. Rosie was starting, like it was close. So we really had to, that one I would say was a little bit of a tough push because MTV didn't really get it because it wasn't really that big yet, if I recall correctly, and they wanted something big. But we had so many people on TRL, and I don't really recall ever having to just say to MTV, okay, I need this. They might be able to tell you because I'm sure they'll be like, she bugged the shit out of me. MTV, TRL wanted big. They wanted the draw. They wanted the Bow Wows. They wanted the Ricky Martins. They wanted the Destiny's Childs.
Did you feel that artists that being on TRL really helped elevate their career further than Savage?
Savage Garden is one of them. Yeah, Savage Garden was one of
Nice.
them. Sean Mullins definitely got a little bit of a boost when he did that. Joey McIntyre was one of the first guest hosts. So he hosted the show, and it really helped put Joey back into people's mindset. Like, because for certain people, it was a guilty pleasure, but it also brought him a new audience. Had Jessica Simpson. People just love Jessica. Whatever we did with Jessica, people watched. They were infatuated with this kid. Like
well,
whatever we did with Jessica,
yeah,
darling. But anything we did with Jessica just exploded. There was something about her that people just loved about that kid.
She felt very relatable. She felt more relatable than, and this isn't a diss on any of the other women who were popular at that time. She just felt a little bit more girl next door-ish than the other ones did. And I think that's why people responded to her so well. And she just had a pleasant, bubbly personality.
Yeah, because Perry, I know you worked with me with Jessica on a bunch of things because we did so many of the ski love, Bear Mountain, and all the spring breaks, and all the 20 million other things that you helped us put together. But I think that's what it was. She was just so relatable, and like I said, people loved her. They just, anytime we did something with a bam, people just gravitated towards it, which is how I think why they came up also with Newlyweds, because let's try this. Hit. Freaking huge hit. And I think one of my favorite episodes of TRL, ironically, was right on 9/11. I was flying to California, and on my flight was Tony DeSanto, Bob Cosbit, Mike Powers, Paula Kaplan, who was formerly of Nickelodeon, and we were actually on a flight to Los Angeles, and we got grounded because obvious reasons. And ironically, we were on an American Airlines flight.
Right.
So me, Tony, Bob, yeah, what's it called? Me, Tony, Bob, and Mike rented a car and drove back. And as we're driving back, we didn't really understand the magnitude of what was happening, I guess because we weren't there. But as we drove, we kind of saw all the footage that we saw. And then all we could think of was, holy God, that could have been us, because we were on an American Airlines flight to Los Angeles, and that's the flight they were going for. So they were Bob and Tony were kind of talking about, well, what do we do? What do we put on? And we all kind of were just talking about it. And we're like, what a great thing to do would be if Carson will do it. And if you can, open the studio, have kids call in, let them talk about it. TRL was the place where kids at the time went. It's where that age group went to find out news, to find out something, to find out comfort. And I said, I think the best thing to do would be to open it up and let kids talk, let kids come in, see if you can get artists to call in. So while we're in the cars, I'm calling talent saying, hey, can you call in and just, call TRL? But of course, I couldn't get through to anybody because nobody's phones were working. But I was able to get a couple.
Yeah.
Like I know John Andrasik from Five for Fighting was one of the people that called in. I feel like that was one of my favorite shows because I really felt it showed, MTV is about entertainment, but MTV also cares about what's going on in the world. We're not just a
Well,
bubble of this.
right.
And I
Well,
feel like
the
that
other
really opened up the doors to it.
yeah, the other thing about
So,
MTV at that time and TRL specifically was it was the place for community for so many kids. And,
100%.
like Instagram or TikTok and, all of those places exist now. The audience gets so much scattered or filtered, and you kind of find your own little tribes on those
Yeah,
platforms. TRL catered to everybody. If you're a rock fan, if you're a hip hop fan, if you're a pop fan, if you're an alternative fan, all of that music was represented on TRL, and everybody had a voice in voting for it.
agree. And I feel like it was a place where everybody could go. It wasn't just for pop stars, it was for rock stars. I think the anniversary of when AC/DC went there. Andrew, were you there when AC/DC was in the building, the TRL?
Negative. No.
Oh my God. It was it was insanity. It was insanity. But
Working in video promotion at a label, I mean, it was your job to submit music videos to MTV for music programming such as TRL, Video Hours, and all of the other shows that they had on. Was there ever a video that you submitted that did not clear standards and practices, or that so many edits were requested that you had to shoot a new video? Or just was there even a video that you guys at the labels felt was this is just going to be really pushing the envelope, and MTV was like, no, we cannot air that, or we cannot show that, or it got a late night airing or something like that, or
there
even
were
like a video that was super expensive to make?
we definitely had videos that had edits and lyrical problems, and that certain videos could only be played after 10 o'clock at night, especially our hardcore metal bands. We did have some of those videos where they were like, okay, we'll take it, but we're not playing it except in the Headbangers Ball. And that's where it kind of lived. We did have some peculiar edits, I will say. I don't remember which LL Cool J video it was. I want to say maybe Around the Way Girl. But I get a call from, I want to say maybe Sherry, I think Sherry Howell. And we actually talked to the MTV when we had standards edits, and then that we would kind of play
Yep.
let's make a deal and see what we could do. Now it's just all in DMDS, and you just click on it and say, okay, well, now you fixed it. We don't want to hear from you until it's done. So she called and she said, you need to remove the headless women in your video. And I went, headless women? Now, when I hear headless women, I'm thinking zombie apocalypse, head cut off, women, somebody running around with no head. So I'm like, you don't have headless women. This was the start of isolated body parts. You were not allowed to have isolated body parts in a video. So, and the way they termed it was headless women. So that was our big running joke. No headless women in the video. So nobody in a video, women particularly, I don't know if it pertained to men, but women could not be shown without their head. So if you could only see this of me, couldn't go in. You had to
Interesting
see
edit.
my head.
If you show a woman booty shaking, and I can't believe I'm saying that word or phrase, it sounds odd coming from me, but if you so a woman like that, they had to be another shot that offset that too. Like you could do one ISO for one other shot. It had to be some kind of a ratio or something.
Yeah. There had to be cause and effect is what you're referring to. So in other words, if I show something like a house is on fire, we had to show it being put out. So that way it's not just a house burning on fire. I know we had a couple of George Michael videos where he didn't want some shots removed, but then ultimately he was just like, I don't care, which is why I think, was it Praying for Time? That was nothing but words. Do you remember this, Perry? The Praying for Time video?
Yeah.
It was just words. He was like, okay, here you go. I was like, oh my God. And they still made me submit lyrics. I'm like, the whole video was a lyric. It's just like all the lyrics on
the first lyric video. He was ahead of his time.
And they took it because they had to. And I don't know if he kind of did it as a screw you. And he did. And then he stopped appearing in his videos. The Freedom video.
That's right.
He was not in
That is
freedom at all.
right.
And that was also the start of that, because that was just unheard of. And we had all the models in it and all the, that was a big process because there was a lot of wardrobe malfunctions in that we had to keep going back and fixing. Well, because if you watch the video, when Naomi does this, you can actually, I think, still see it. When she slips, like she does this, I think we missed a shot. So it doesn't matter now because it's 100 years.
Well, it's funny, even
I remember
in that,
watching the video going, oh God, we missed that shot. Because there were so many weird things, and we missed that shot.
even in that song, he references MTV in the
Yeah, the
lyrics
boys
of
at
that song. The boys at MTV, yeah.
Well, and I think that was part
What
of
is he
it,
talking about?
because
Who were the
I think
boys?
they would come to us and say, what does MTV think? And then we would go back to them. And at the time, you cared what MTV thought, because
Right.
if you didn't pass their muster or their standards, you're not getting on MTV. And even today, they still care about it, believe it or not. I mean, I know it's not music television, but we still deal with it. And labels still do care about what happens at MTV. MTV Awards, still a big thing. They're not doing movie awards this year, which I think is kind of sad. But I do understand with all the changes going on there. But I know that would get frustrating for artists back in the day, because they were like, well, we don't want to just make something for MTV. And we would tell them, you don't have to. But because we have other places that you can go with this. And back then we had God knows how many local video outlets. There was Friday Night Videos to the Box, which was down in Florida, would play videos. Like we had video pools. We had tons of different places to play videos. So some of our smaller bands, especially the harder edged rock bands, would be like, well, we're just going to make a video for us. I'm like, okay. So there were some videos that actually got made, which we didn't bother submitting because we knew they would just not have a home, and they were actually okay with that. And some of them actually kind of grew grassroots from there.
You have to pick and choose, I think.
Right. But ultimately, let's face it, the end game was people wanted to be in Times Square. They wanted to be in the window. They wanted to be like that.
Yeah.
Because New Year's Eve, all those wonderful shows.
We're going to take a little break in our format and throw a quick fire round at you, Michelle.
Cool. So bad at this one. I'm going to do I love games. Okay, go.
This is easy. This is easy. But I first want to mention our friends at a music community that we belong to called Lonely Wolves. Who needs another podcast? But if you're looking for a podcast for the latest in music tech, evolving industry, some AI and emerging trends, check out Lonely Wolves podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Just thought I'd throw that out. These are friends of ours.
Have to support.
All right.
Got to support.
We have to support. We have to support.
Send me the link for it. Send me the link for it so I can share it with
you.
people.
We will.
We will. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Quick fire. What was your first concert?
Lawrence Welk.
Wow. Not what I expected. Okay.
I was 8 years old. I went with my mother.
Wow.
Lawrence Welk at Madison Square Garden.
At least it was a great venue.
Wait, how did Lawrence Welk even play Madison Square Garden? That is crazy.
Played Madison Square Garden. Me and my family. My mother didn't really understand, and she really thought she would be close enough that she would get to dance on stage with him. And she made us get all dressed up in suits and everything, me and my brothers. And I think we were like in the back, up in the 300s or the 400s. Like he looked like this big. Yeah, Lawrence.
Wow,
that is funny.
I'm so proud of that.
What was your favorite era of music?
Oh my God! As a kid, the 80s, obviously, just all the pop. I'm a rock chick, so I'm gonna say all the rock bands from then. I did love the 90s. Not so much. I wasn't a grunge person per se, but I did love Alice. I loved Pearl Jam. I loved.
Gotcha.
Like when alternative really started to come into play, Soul Asylum, just all those.
Same.
Yeah.
Which artist would you love to see perform, dead or alive, or that
Tony
you've
Bennett.
never seen before?
I would say Tony Bennett.
It's a classic.
Tony Bennett and I share the same birthday.
It's a great day, great man. Great man born on that day.
What was the first album that you bought?
My father got it for me. Aerosmith Draw the Line.
Okay.
Ironically.
Wow. Okay. From Lawrence Welk to Aerosmith. That's quite a jump.
That nobody
Would you
said
rather
that
have
concept
dinner?
before.
Yeah,
Go on.
that's a great one. Would you rather have dinner with Beyonce or Adele?
I mean, I have to say Beyonce. That's my
Okay.
girl. So I've known Beyonce since she's 16. I have to go with Beyonce. I love Adele. I
And
do. I love
Adele was
Adele.
probably
But I would
yeah,
a
mainly
little.
after your time at Columbia, but
Yeah,
they were
she what's
both
it called? They were
Sony
both
artists.
there, but I would have to. I have to go with my Miss B, as my kids call her, my Miss B.
I
So yeah,
I thought so. I thought so. How do you
yeah.
learn about new music today?
With my job and
Yeah,
my kids,
yeah,
what my kids
kids.
are blasting on there. But interestingly enough, they tend to use a lot of the older songs, like My Boo. Do you remember My Boo from
Hmm.
All Star or whatever?
Hmm.
That was one of our projects. My kids were playing it about a month ago. I'm like, what the hell are you playing this song for? So yeah, but
I know
I
there's a
just
lot of older
and
music coming back on,
a
TikTok.
lot of it, yeah, pretty much through my job because I'm still dealing with the labels and stuff and my kids. I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Lastly, who's your favorite artist right now?
I mean, my all-time favorite artist is Heart. Like they
Okay.
they're just
Or a
But I
project that
must
you're
say, you know,
working, or a project
oh,
that
a
you're
project that I'm working.
working.
Oh, Teddy Swims.
Okay.
Teddy Swims
Very
is
cool.
fantastic. Teddy Swims, and actually a new one. Tia Kareem is a new urban artist, and actually she has a song called Eight that's out right now. I really like it. I did not think I would, but I actually
All right.
really like it.
Have to
Yeah,
check it
I
out.
really like it. Yeah, I really like
All
it.
right.
Thank you for the
So
recommendation.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
I really do like it.
We're going to move into a VMA
Oh,
topic, which I'm sure you have
oh,
worked memorable
yes,
shows. You have lots of
yes.
memorable moments that stand out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You've probably had artists perform, artists that were nominated. You've had winners. Any artists
Losers.
that
Yep.
you can say that were easy to work with for an award show, and any that were a bit challenging? Or
Is
if you don't want to
that
mention names,
I
any,
feel like easy to work with and an artist are kind of almost oxymorons sometimes.
yeah.
I love them. Oh no, I have to say I've
What was a good
been
year, a year for
a
you
good
at the
year for
VMAs?
VM was, I will say, my first year, which I want to
Okay.
say was 91. We had Mariah Carey, CNC Music Factory, LL Cool J performing, and then attending we had Third Base, Alice in Chains, Warrant, Eddie Money. I feel like we had a couple of presenters in there too. So we had a lot of people for this particular VMA, which is why Mark Kaneem brought me out there to kind of help, because back then, I mean, we didn't have computers, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have anything. So I was literally working outside the venue on a payphone. Like they actually got me a desk
Oh
and
my
put the desk
God.
there. Well, and also I was having to get rides because I was too
That's
young to rent a
incredible.
car. Yeah, I couldn't rent a car. I was too young. So because I was only
Right.
22, 23 at the time. So they actually had to drive me around. And the big joke was she can't even rent a car, but she's got the three biggest acts on the show. It's like, yeah, with Mariah, LL, and CNC. I will say it was my most memorable because it was the first one, and I learned so much from
Right.
that. Like that just kind of set the tone for me as, okay, this is how it gets done every year. So it just got easier after that because technology came into play and everything came into play. But that I would say is my favorite one because it was my first one. And then
And that was a great
easiest,
mix of artists too.
yep, that was Prince was on that show. That was when I actually had a fun story. I was watching CNC Music Factory perform. They were rehearsing, and that was what I had to do. I had to kind of keep eyes on everything. And then as I'm sitting in the audience, a wall of men just kind of form in front of me, like a row ahead. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm trying to just move over. And as I'm moving, they're moving. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And I'm like, excuse me, guys, I have to watch this. And then there's a voice behind me. Oh no, they have to stand like that when they're around me. And I turn around, it's Prince. And I'm like, he goes, no, I have to be circled. So wherever I am, they have to kind of circle me. And I was like, no, but I can't see anything. So he had them part a little bit so I could just see through this little hole. But it was actually really surreal because he's like, so what is it? Because CNC were relatively new. I mean, that song blew up, but people did not really know
Right.
the story behind these kids. And I remember Van Halen was on the show that year too. And I am such a, oh my God, Van Halen fan. And I'm standing there with Zelma, and Eddie Van Halen comes over. And he's like, oh, I'm just a big fan. She's like, oh, thank you very much. He's like, who was that? I'm like,
Oh
she didn't
my
know what he was.
God.
She didn't know what he
Wow.
was. I was like, oh my God, wow. And then I think right after
Well,
that,
that's the other,
yeah, cool thing.
I was going to say the other great thing about the VMAs too is that all these artists who would never get a chance to sort of see each other or meet each other or watch each other all had that opportunity at the VMAs because, again, it was so representative of everything that was happening in culture and music at that time.
I feel like there was such a different vibe too back in the late 80s, early 90s for VMAs as there is to now. Because it's like you said, you just had kind of a mix and a clash. And it was okay for everybody to kind of just go with each other. Now I feel like it's a little more precious. Like, the artists are just kind of more like, oh, no, 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 no. Whereas back then it was just like, okay, I'd
Free
go
for all.
into somebody's, right. Like, we would go in and, oh, look, so-and-so's sitting in so-and-so's dressing room. Yeah, if you stay there, we don't care. Like it was just a little more, I don't want to use the
Yeah.
word
Well, I think
relaxed, but it was
also
different.
it's
It was different.
the fact that everything can be recorded these days on a cell phone, everything's on
Yeah,
social
that's true.
media.
True.
If you're trying to keep something a surprise, if you're trying to keep something a secret, everything can get reported and with video so quickly
Yeah,
these days.
that's
Yeah.
definitely true because I know a lot of my counterparts, we always joke about how can you imagine if social media lived back in the day? We would all not have jobs. I'm pretty sure none of us
We've
would still
talked about that as well.
I've been lucky that there have been some where, and you have to read them. You can tell the ones you're going to be able to sit and chat with, and the ones you're going to have to just say, you do this, and you depart, and you wait outside
Right.
their room for them to come out. The one that I've worked with and I've had the most to do with was the Fugees. They're one of the projects that I just loved watching from start to finish because such hard workers. I mean, I remember we would be doing Lauren's homework because she'd be like, I can't come, I got homework. I'm like, show up, I'll help you. And we would be sitting there
Wait,
doing
how
our
old was
homework.
she when the Fugees started?
She was still doing homework, so I'm going to say like senior year of high school. I mean,
Wow.
Wow.
I never knew
oh
she
no.
was that young.
Oh no, it was the same with like a lot of my artists, like Bow Wow. I hate Bow Wow used to fight
Well,
me
Bow
because I
Wow,
would
yeah.
make him.
Yeah.
Well, what did he say to me one time? He's like, so wait, when did you start here? And I told him, he's like, so you've been working here longer than I've been alive? I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks.
That
You get Mr.
makes you
Chow's
feel
is off
old.
no more Mr. Chow's for you. You're done, kid. That band in particular was very just so near and dear to my heart. And there were definitely times where it was like a struggle. And especially towards the later years with Lauren, with like when they started to kind of find their own and do their own things. But I was always able to kind of maintain a good relationship where it was like, okay, you got to get this
They've
done.
definitely
You have
had
to
their
do
ups and
this.
downs. And I watched them
Exactly.
at the what did they perform at the SNL 50, right? I
SNL
thought
50.
that was
Yeah.
an amazing
Yeah.
performance.
I thought
So
it
they've still
was.
got it.
They still have it. And I mean, there's a little bit missing from the old days, but I don't know that will ever come back. So, like there's,
Right.
Yeah,
and I think
that's
I think it's also
understandable.
because I've known them and I've seen them in so many incarnations that when I see them, I want to see the Fugees from 1990s. Like that's what I want to see. I want to feel that heart. I want to feel that soul. I want to feel that drive. Like because they were so much fun. They were crazy as loons, but they were just so much fun. And so many of my bands were like that. And God, now I'm thinking of all the good crazy things that we did with all the years, like all the spring breaks and all the mountain lodges, and we should just all write a book on that and just I remember when. So
Well, we
no.
we'll talk about doing another episode with you about all of those stories. Having been in the music scene in New York for as long as you have, is there a favorite New York City concert venue, either current or in the past, that is your favorite? And what is the best show that you ever saw there?
I want to say Bruce Springsteen at the Bottom Line. That was one of the, I will say that.
Wow.
Bruce Springsteen, we didn't know. They called us all and said mandatory attendance at this, and we were
Oh,
all getting fired. We're all getting fired. We go. I'm pretty sure it was Bottom Line, but we all go, and we're seated and waited, and then all of a sudden the curtain just pulls back, and there he is. And he did a special show for us, like acoustic, and then the band came out. So yeah, I would say that was definitely. I loved all those. I loved CBGBs. I loved all those, the old Ritz, places like that. Like, I just feel like there was something so, like Mercury Lounge was
you
absolutely one of my
prefer
favorites.
a smaller, intimate
I
show than
do.
a
I do.
big
I mean,
arena?
yeah, we used to have a band play at Brownies every Thursday night. So we would go to Brownies
Mhm.
every Thursday night. It was just, I think, because
Wow.
you could really just connect with the band, and I loved seeing a baby band for the first time like that. And
Yeah.
then when you see them on a big stage, like, it kind of brings tears to your eyes. You're like, oh my God. I remember, like, Alice in Chains, one of those bands. Like, they were just baby band, and then they blew up, and it was just like, I think one of my favorite moments with Alice was they opened for Kiss, and Lane came out, and he looks around and he goes, hey, how come nobody's dressed like me? I was like,
Oh,
oh
wow.
my God. I was like, that was
It's
one of my
I,
favorite lines. So,
I think one of the things that people who don't live in New York don't know about New York is that, obviously they know Madison Square Garden, maybe they know about Radio
yeah.
City Music Hall, and they think that there's just these huge venues here, but there's so many music venues
No.
for emerging artists to play in. And you could see, you could see a different artist at a different venue every night of the year,
Yeah.
probably.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like it used to be. We all know it's not like the music club scene is not like everything has just shuttered. Like CB's closing, I think, was the real start of the wah wah wah. Like, we're
Yeah.
gone by the wayside. But I agree with you. Like, people don't know that there's other venues that you can go and just see, just pop in. But I also don't feel like that happens as much as it did when we were younger. Like, you could walk around
no,
Manhattan, down the village, and just there's a band playing. There's some band playing. I
right.
don't know that it's the same as it was anymore. Like,
Well, I
I
think a
do love
lot of
City
it has.
Winery. Have you seen a show at City Winery? I do love City Winery.
I
I
have
do like
not.
City Winery.
No,
Me
no.
I do
neither.
like City
Yeah.
Winery.
And
I saw Sean
and I
Cassidy
would
there.
say
It was fabulous. Recently too.
I would say that a lot of those venues that we knew as the small sort of intimate venues in Manhattan have a lot of them have migrated to Brooklyn too.
Agree. Like, Williamsburg seems to be the spot where all the clubs have gone to, because a lot more bands are playing in Brooklyn than they are here, I'm finding. Because my daughter's
Yeah,
now over in Brooklyn,
yeah.
and she says, oh, bands, there's one music alley right down there in Williamsburg that everybody plays. And like, every week we would get together and we
Hmm.
would just either go bowling, or we would go just see a show. We would go to dinner, and just like, it was just so different. It was just really, really so
Yeah.
different. But yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the
I don't
reason.
know that I can top those. You can't top those
Well,
shows. You definitely can't.
that's the reason we're doing the podcast is because everyone from that era has amazing stories to tell,
Yes.
and we want to give everybody that opportunity to tell them. Like you just said, you could go on for another, 20, 30, 40 minutes talking about Spring Break and
Forever.
Beach House and
Oh
everything
my
else
God.
and movie awards. I think we are at the end of our episode. So we want to say thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Our friends Drew Thurlow and Lauren Blitzer Wright over at Lone Wolves Community Podcast. Please check it out. New music tech. It's a fun podcast. I've listened to one. They talked about Spotify's recent Loud and Clear report. So
Oh,
very
interesting.
music timely topics over there.
And if you're in the music business, there'll probably be a lot of guests on the show that you will know and want to tune in to
Oh,
hear. So,
fun.
Yes.
I love
so we're
that.
going to
Well,
wrap it up. Say thank you to you, Michelle. We really, really appreciate you taking the time and talking to
thank
us.
you.
And
I'm
we
honored
Great
that you
catching
guys.
will
up.
hopefully do this again.
Honored that you guys invited me, and thank you for doing this, because I watch your podcast and it just brings me back to the best time in my life. So thank you guys for doing this, and I know it does the same for everybody else. This is just fantastic and so much fun. And I bet nobody beats my Lawrence Welk. That's the one to beat. That's the concert to beat, I feel.
No, that is the one to
I own
beat
that.
at this point.
I own that.
Absolutely.
I own that, and I'm proud of it.
All right. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. Bye.